Hello, lovely Frollo community. My name is Emma Svanberg and I am a clinical psychologist, also known as the Mumologist, and I run an online parenting community over on Facebook which is called The Village. And I have been asked to speak to you today about how it feels to be coming out of lockdown and all of the anxieties that are around for parents and children at this really peculiar time. And the first thing that I wanted to say about that is just to acknowledge how strange this time actually is, because I think that there is this kind of story around at the moment that we should be happy and that we are moving on to a kind of more positive part of this whole very strange period that we've been in. But actually the majority of parents that I'm speaking to are finding that they are at the moment even more anxious than they were before, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One reason is just because of this particular situation that we're in. So at the beginning of lockdown we had this kind of quite reassuring message that we just had one thing to do: we could shut the doors, stay at home, stay safe. That of course wasn't the case for everybody, but for many people that was what they had to do, and there's something very unambiguous about that, and everyone was kind of in the same boat unless you were a key worker. And if you are now kind of like the majority of people in a state where you're not entirely sure what is best for you and your family, that can really raise our anxiety. So it may be that recently you've had to make decisions about whether or not to take your children back to school or nursery. You might be making decisions about whether to get other childcare involved. You might have already made decisions about getting family carers back involved again. And there's been really, kind of fluffy, shall we say, guidance on the best ways of doing that. So people have been really left to their own devices and thinking about the kind of risk algorithms that apply to their own families and their own individual circumstances. And that's a really difficult thing to do. So to think about how this is going to affect your family, thinking about your health concerns, thinking about what kind of financial situation you're in, who you depend on for childcare, how your mental health has been over the last few months. So there's lots and lots of different factors that come into play, many more than the ones that I've just mentioned. So it's not surprising that this is actually a really anxious time for a lot of people. But because there is this story around that we're supposed to be kind of feeling positive and feeling happy, we can end up feeling a bit unsettled about feeling so anxious. We can also have this expectation that we are supposed to be feeling okay about this now. So we can start to get a little bit hard on ourselves. And that also relates to the way that we might respond to our children too. Our children have also been in this situation for a while. Maybe as things ease, we're expecting that they're also supposed to be happy. And actually what we might be seeing in our children is more displays of really big emotions as they start to come to terms with yet another transition. So I just wanted to first of all acknowledge that this is a really anxious time, and that if you're feeling anxious or stressed or worried about what you feel is the best thing to do for you and your family at the moment, just know that you're absolutely not alone in that, and that at this point we really all have to think very carefully about what is going to be best for us and our families, even if that's really different from the people around us, which is often a really difficult thing to do. So the second thing to say is what to do about that anxiety. And at the moment, for a lot of people, because there is this feeling that anxiety is kind of less allowed than it was at the beginning, a lot of people are finding it really hard to talk to others about the strength of their emotions. So I would say the first thing that you can do is to find really supportive communities like this one, where you can talk openly about your worries and concerns, and finding spaces where you don't feel like you're going to be judged, where maybe people have similar experiences or worries to your own. Because one of the things that is really important to us as humans is that we reference the behaviours of each other. So we call it social referencing theory in psychology. We don't exist in a vacuum as human beings. We like to know what other people are doing. So finding the choices that other people are making, and just knowing that we're not alone in the worries that we have, and that kind of normalisation that can occur as a result of that, is something that can really help to alleviate our anxieties too. As well as normalising our feelings, it can be really helpful to find ways to just bring down those anxiety levels. And at the moment, one of the quickest and easiest ways that you can do that, particularly if you've got kids around all the time, is through grounding. So grounding is where we literally just stop in the moment that we're in and ground ourselves in that moment. So one really quick and easy way of doing that is just by thinking really carefully, focusing on your feet and feeling the way that your feet are connected to the floor. Just really noticing how it feels to have your feet supported by the ground beneath it. You might even want to imagine the earth beneath your feet and how much that earth can connect us all to each other. And simple little tricks like that can just help us stay in this moment, because often when we're feeling anxious, we spiral off into the future or we go back into the past and think about what ifs. But finding ways that we can just stay in this present moment can be really helpful. Lots of people really like breathing exercises, so doing really long deep breaths in through your nose and longer slower breaths out through your mouth. That's something that you can do with your kids as well if you notice that their adrenaline is starting to raise. Or you might find other ways of reducing your adrenaline and reducing your anxiety. So some ideas might be things like journaling, even just one line a day, things like other activities that you can do so that you can kind of burn off your adrenaline. That might be a really fast dance around in the kitchen, or if you have the opportunity for a run or a walk around the block, even better. But it's really helpful to find the things that work for you, and that is really different for everybody. And one last tip for this time when we have so many uncertainties and so many things to look forward to, and also so many worries that still remain, is to think about what is certain in your life at the moment. And that might just be that we are here right now. That is something that is certain. It might be the certainty of your child and the relationship with your child. It might be just the certainty that time will pass and the sun will set and it will rise again in the morning. So just finding things that you can control, that you do feel certain about, can just help to remind you that even when things are feeling really out of control, there are still things that you can be certain of. I think it's important just to note that in this time, what we have been doing as parents is containing their anxieties. And I often think about a parent-child relationship as being a bit like Russian dolls, where the more dolls that we can create around that child, the more secure that child can feel. And often nowadays we are parenting very much alone and with very little support, and that has been so highlighted for people in the past few months, where the kind of support that you really rely on has been often taken away from us. So if we can think about the kind of job that we've been doing recently, we have been containing our child's anxieties, sometimes more successfully than others. And our children have had a lot to deal with, and we've had a lot to deal with. And as parents, our role has very much been to kind of hold them through this really challenging period. So it's really important to just stop and think about just how hard you've been working. And if you're working outside of the house as well, or trying to work from home, that has been such a tremendously challenging thing, and there has not been nearly enough in the press or in the conversations that we've been having during this time about just what an enormous impact that has been having on parents, and particularly single parents who often are navigating all of this by themselves. So I think it's really worth just acknowledging just what a challenging time this has been, just how much work you've done in containing the anxieties and the big feelings of your children, and often without very much to contain that for yourself. So being able to find places where you can feel contained, and that might be on the Frollo app, that might be on other communities, parenting communities, among friends, among family members. You might even want to get in the support of professionals. Just finding all of the ways or means that you can find some containment for your own feelings in order that you can carry on to containing your children's feelings as we continue on this very uncertain and strange path that we're on. I'm always really happy to answer questions. So if you would like to get in touch, then I am at Psychologist on Instagram, or you can find me on my website. And if you want to come and find another parenting community, then we are the Village Parenting Community on Facebook. But for now, thank you for listening, and good luck all of you in this really difficult period that we're in. I know that you are all doing the best that you can. Bye for now.